Many thanks for choosing us. There will be no introduction of a new CI to guide the upcoming general election. This was a consensus reached by the Electoral Commission and political parties earlier today at the Inter-Party Advisory Committee meeting. The retention of the existing CI 127 for the conduct of this year's election will mean that earlier proposals for the use of Ghana card, guarantor system and no indelible ink have been suspended. The NDC, which has returned after several negotiations with IPAC, said their demands for changes in the electoral process through their boycotts have yielded results. Listen to Dr. Omane Boama.
Declarative statements about issues that we've been haggling over for some time. Some of them had been heard, but officially she placed before all the political parties present that in 2024 elections, indelible ink will be used. One. She further stated that ahead of the election, the registration that we are going to have, the guarantor system will stay, because that has been a concern that we had been raising. And we had always used evidence, their own evidence, that the 2023 limited registration, over 60% of the registrants registered through the guarantor system and not by using either a passport or the Ghana card. Therefore, if within a short period of less than 1 year, the EC was going to jettison the guarantor system through a new CI, it would have meant that the EC was going to disenfranchise a lot of Ghanaians. The EC chair was very clear, without ambiguity, that the guarantor system will remain in the limited registration that we are going to have. You also recall that during the 2023 limited registration, we had a situation where the registration took place only in district offices. If you came to this place where we are, the very grounds that we are, the place was congested, extremely congested. They have agreed that they will expand the registration beyond the district offices, but they will do that in electoral areas that have difficult to reach zones. And so we said there is ambiguity in difficult to reach. So we want to see what they are accepting to be difficult to reach, so that if we have to make inputs, and we believe we would have to make inputs into them, places like Afram Plains and North Tongue and the rest, there are hard to reach areas there. We will help them so that we all co-create those hard to reach areas in the electoral areas. So there again, we complain about the district office registrations, and initially we were pushing for, not in this meeting, but initially we were pushing for the entire polling stations. But it's obvious that their budgetary constraints and everything cannot allow. But at least they've met us halfway by extending to the electoral areas with hard to reach areas. And this is something that we will try to address the ambiguity. Beyond that is also a firm assurance that there will be no new CI to govern the 2024 elections. What that means is that we are going with the CI 127 that you all know. So Ghana card will be used as part of the documents, identifiers, but Ghana card will not be the sole identifier.
The New Patriotic Party said it has no issues with the decision at IPAC. Director of Elections and Research, Evans Nemako, said they are ready for the elections.
The existing CI is what is going to be used. That means that indelible ink will be used. The date for the elections remains 7th December. There's going to be registration exercise for 21 days. In May, there will be guarantor system. What the NPP will not support is for stakeholders to guarantee for minors and non-citizens to be on the electoral roll. It is the reason why the New Patriotic Party was in full support of a new CI that will ensure that it is the Ghana card that will be used. That notwithstanding, we will go along with what exists and make sure that the right things are done. I think as parties, we've had successful deliberation at this meeting, and we'll see to its fruitful implementation. Yes.
This is generally you are satisfied with the engagement with the EC?
Yes, we said that with respect to the registration that is to come in May, the EC said it will be at the district offices for 21 days. The EC has also agreed that they will make available some mobile registration teams so that very difficult areas will be assessed for our brothers and sisters who will have to register to be on the ballot. They are anticipating a certain number of about 600,000 to be on the electoral roll. And so we will be eyeing those indicators and make sure that we will have a very successful exercise. And for us to have a very peaceful general elections come December. For us, we know very well that our candidate, Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, has done so much. There's so much of support for him across the country. And so we know we are winning the election. So we will do everything it takes for Ghana to have a very smooth and successful election.
Meanwhile, the People's National Convention reveals that the EC has apologized to the parties for publishing the election calendar before consulting them. Janet Nabila is General Secretary of the party.
It's true that the meeting was very cordial, except that we are going back to the traditional system without trying to introduce any modernity into our electoral process. For instance, when they were talking about the indelible ink, the PNC, we said we have facial recognition, we have fingerprint recognition. What do we need indelible ink for? It's because of our mistrust towards each other. That is why anytime they try to introduce something new into our system, we reject it. The second thing has to do with the petition that was received by the SDA and other things. That petition has been ignored. When you look at the timetable of the Electoral Commission, it has been ignored because they said majority of IPAC members rejected it. For us, when they talk about democracy, even the smallest voices among us matters. So if persons like this in SDA are coming out to complain about a particular date and we are not looking at it, I don't think our our democracy is can be praised when we are doing things of this nature. But today's meeting was very cordial. The timetable that was brought out is the timetable. Electoral Commission is saying that they are opening more registration centers, 4,000 registration centers for us, in addition to the 38,000, making 42,000. And everything was accepted at IPAC. I think everything went on well. And Ghanaians, the only reason why some political parties were complaining were that Electoral Commission did not discuss the timetable with us before bringing it to the media. But at IPAC meeting, they were forcing Electoral Commission, publish it. What is the meaning of publishing? Is it not to the media? So they publish it, and then they were also having, today Electoral Commission apologized, and then they even promised next time to discuss matters with us before going forward. But today it was very cordial, and I think that patriotism was introduced into our system today. All political parties came out with their grievances. Electoral Commission accepted, gave explanation to us, and I think that the way forward is that we should continue to maintain cordial relationship in our IPAC meetings, and also to make sure that things that we do are supposed to be to the good of our people, not about political party symbols. And that was what was done today.
Janet Nabila is with the PNC. Of course, we've been waiting for the running mate of the 2024 elections for the NDC to name his the flag bearer to name his running mate today. That is yet to happen, and we are monitoring with keen eyes. And of course, I have two political analysts on the show who will be discussing that with me. But as we wait for that to happen, let me pick your thoughts. Dr. Asa Asante, who is a senior political lecturer at the University of Ghana, and also Professor Kobe Mensah, who is a political marketing strategist with the University of Ghana Business School. Grateful for your time. We'll be going into the running mate for John Dramani Mahama. But let me pick your thoughts on this development from the Electoral Commission. Now we're hearing that there will be there'll be no need to use the Ghana card, as was indicated earlier by the EC. We will not be cancelling the usage of the indelible ink. And again, that guarantor system, you know how the back and forth it brought, that has also been suspended. Let me find out what you make of this development. And I'll start with you, Dr. Asa Asante.
I think it's a good development. Election is about having all stakeholders speaking from a certain perspective, not necessarily having a common word voice, but at least at the end of the day, whatever differences, they settle with consensus. That's the spirit of democracy, and that's the spirit behind any free, fair, and transparent electoral process. You need to have confidence of the people. You need to have their input into the system. Remember that anything short of it will raise an eyebrow, and that doesn't augur well for a meaningful electoral process. So what they have done, for me, is a good thing. It needs to be sustained and make sure that all the things they said, they bring it toward fruition. I think they are on course.
Great. Prof. Kobe Mensah, from your side, how do you take all of this?
Okay, let me say hello to Asa. Good to see you, my brother.
Good to see you.
I think that it's a good development. Of course, I would ask that they should publish it for the rest of us, because the stakeholders in the electoral process are not only the political parties. Those of us who actually monitor the behaviors of all the political stakeholders, we are also interested in that. I think that they need to, put those, things that they've agreed on in the public domain. And then, of course, we could also make some assessment. But of course, largely, we've heard that it was good. They've talked about bipartisanship in terms of the acceptance. They've talked about some kind of, collegiality, in the meeting. And I think that, it speaks well, of the process. But I would still say that they should publish the entire agreements, for us to also review them, and then perhaps also make some comments on that.
All right, please stay on for me, because the NDC flag bearer John Dramani Mahama is this afternoon submitting his nominee for running mate to the National Executive Council. Of course, after that, he would also be meeting he will first meet the Council of Elders for deliberations and approval before meeting the National Executive Council for this. The party has described the move as a critical step in the party's preparation towards the 2024 general elections. Well, National Chairman Johnson Asiedu Nketia has been speaking to Blessed Soga on what this really means for the party.
We are still in the process of consultation. So we are going to the final stage, that is at the party office. So
are you able to explain to us what happened today? What kind of meeting we are seeing now?
No,
that is going on. Not necessarily the decision.
Consultation with the Council of Elders. Then we will consult the National Executive Committee. It is after the National Executive Committee meeting that we would have concluded the consultations, and we will have something definite to tell the media.
Some flyers have started going out with names. We've heard Prof.Jane and
I've just told you what has happened. We are not responsible for anything that anybody says. So after this afternoon's meeting, we will address the press and convey to you what our conclusion.
Party unity is key. Are you sure that you'll be able to maintain a united front before, during, and after the exercise?
Yeah, we are very sure about that. So let us meet after the next meeting at the party office. We are not at the stage of communicating to the grassroots yet, because we are in the middle of a process. You cannot be declaring election results midway of the elections. So when we finish, we will have a message for this.
Well, Joyce Bar Mokhtari, who is aide to John Dramani Mahama, hopes the choice will be Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman. Listen.
Well, so far, I think that everything has been cordial, very candid opinions expressed. I think practically all the elders of our party were present, and of course, the party chairman and the general secretary and many others that I hadn't even seen in a while. I'm sure that mostly, you know, that these consultations can go on for days on end. What happened today is actually also instructive, that the consultations have so far gone on very, very well. There's really no acrimony, maybe just debates about what and how, largely the processes. I'm sure that each and every person has left the room knowing very well that this is exactly the nominee that John Mahama has in mind. They've all pledged their support. They've pledged to do their very best for the flag bearer and his nominee. And you know that in the next few hours, we'll be going to the party headquarters where he will be presenting the nominee to the National Executive Committee of the National Democratic Congress.
So a name has been submitted. Is that what you're confirming?
Well, the name will finally be announced at about 2:30, latest 3 p.m. But yes, a few names have actually been submitted, discussed. Some resumes have also been shared and discussed. So I'm sure in the next 2 hours, by all means, a huge announcement will be made.
Tomorrow is International Women's Day. Does it have anything to do with what's happening now?
Well, you know, personally, I hope that it will. I pray that it will, and I hope that it does. But I'm sure that for now, we can all wait till 2 p.m. when eventually the nominee will be unveiled to the general public and a name will actually be submitted through a formal announcement from the party chairman.
The chairperson of the party speaking a while ago and saying that it's not the end of the road and that you've not concluded on the nominee. Is that to suggest that you're not unified when it comes to the front you have as the NDC on who exactly should be the running mate?
We are all at them. That the responsibility of the nomination of a running mate is largely the preserve of the flag bearer at any given time and leader of the party in consultation with various arms of the party. The consultation as far as the party elders are concerned is what has taken place. The next leg will be at 2 p.m. at the headquarters where SIM will be done with the National Executive Committee of the party.
Will JM continue to and go ahead or proceed to announce the running mate even if there's opposition or at least some advice against the nominee? Is that the sense we're getting?
For now, I don't sense that there's any opposition. I haven't gleaned that from any of the conversations that have taken place. I believe that everybody is adding them that this is a wise decision, it's a wise process. That at this time in our lives, we need unifiers, we need experience, we need not experiment with individuals, we need credibility, we need integrity, we need individuals who have been tried and tested. I think personally that Ghana needs a certain humble approach to leadership, a certain honest and sincere leadership. We also need people that have a certain can-do spirit. And we know, we need a certain empathy. It actually has a different feel to it when you have leaders who empathize. And I am looking forward to a ticket that displays a certain modicum of empathy, honesty. There's a lot of hardship. There's many challenges that we are currently experiencing. Each and every citizen wants something better. And like Mr. Mahama said yesterday, Ghana deserves better.
Is John Mahama mindful of the future beyond 2028? Because the argument is you must choose someone who would be able to hold the fort for the party beyond 2028. And that's been part of the criticism against the purported, nominee. How do you respond to the fact that Jane and Opoku-Agyeman would not be able to carry the party beyond 2028?
But all of us standing here we can't see beyond today. Who knows what tomorrow portends for all of us? For now, what we need is a ticket that is a safe pair of hands, one that Ghanaians will rally their support for, one that Ghanaians will look forward to generating and delivering on hope. And I believe that is exactly what the consultation process will deliver for us.
Are you sure that James Veep can take you beyond 2028?
Many individuals in the NDC can take us beyond 2028 and more. And I'm looking forward to a very healthy competition, healthy lobbying, healthy debates, name it. But the future is very bright. Our prospects as a party are very, very bright. Many, many, many young leaders, all over, male, female, you can see them all over. It tells you that the party has a bright future and a strong future.
You heard Joyce Bao Mokhtari speaking with my colleague Blessed Sogan. Grateful that you stayed on for me, Doc and Prof. Let me begin with you, Doc. I mean, all this while, your prediction has been Professor Nano Pokwa-German. I mean, up until today, has your stance changed?
No. I believe she's the best candidate at the moment. I must also say that all those names that we have heard, they are equally good materials worth considering. But I believe that the professor stands tall than all of them because of a number of factors. If you look at them, for instance, you talk about what the game of politics, a game of what numbers, popularity. The woman is very popular. And popularity comes from the fact that he had managed the university for a very long time, from her position as a head of department to the dean to the vice chancellor. Remember, the university is a microcosm of the country. We have all manner of people in there, and he was able to manage successfully. That is by dint of hard work, and that is a plus, a feather in her cap. Look at public life in terms of politics. He had managed a ministry, a bigger one, of course, Ministry of Education. Remember, in politics, there are certain ministries, when they put you, you become what? Not popular. There are some, it makes you popular. Take, for instance, education. You find education in almost every home. So if we are doing some great things there, it resonates with the people and it becomes a household name. That aside, the woman's popularity has also, we've seen in the area of the last election, where he was the running mate, and he was sent throughout the nook and cranny of this country. Popularity, she's got it. Experience, he has a lot, from academia, from ministry, and from party work and all that. She has a wealth of experience that he can bring to bear on the situation. Not only that, we also talk about constituencies. And the constituencies in consideration of this nature, you talk about what? Constituencies. What are her constituencies? Apart from her natural home constituency, she is also favored in the area of gender. The gender groups will be gravitating towards her, that, hey, this is a woman that is fit for purpose. Remember that people are yearning for having a woman in high office, such as what? The vice president, and possibly to become what? A flag bearer one day. Who knows? So when they get somebody like that, they hail to that type of what selection that it is good. Not only that, scholars also appreciate people who have gone through the mill and have blossomed to become the best for themselves, the best for their society. This woman, they will not shy away from getting closer to her as what one of the best materials that the universities have produced. All right. Quite apart from that, she also appealed to a lot of people from all walks of life and all that. So that constituency is also a big one for her. And then you need somebody with little or no baggage if you are considering a position like this. And you and I know that this woman has very impeccable record, and she has integrity. And then she has all that it takes to be in the high office, such as what? A running mate. If her party is able to win, she becomes the vice president. So the woman has a lot. We look at the baggage in the sense that you don't want a situation where political communicators would chance upon this if he has very heavy baggage against her. That can be used as one material to build messages against her. And so anytime you are campaigning, you have another, work of responding to things that are against her. But so far, what we have heard about her, she's proceeding with integrity. All put together, you realize that you need somebody that in the absence of the president, he can come in and step into the shoes and be able to deliver. And I have no doubt in my mind that if the mantle falls on her, she will be able to stand tall.
Well, Professor Kobe Mensah, I would have to hold you on because there's something happening right now that we need to pick some updates. Well, we've have to cross over to Parliament over some disturbing issues. My colleague Kweku Asante is standing by for us. Kweku, we're hearing that sitting has suspended in Parliament. What really is the reason? Hello, Kweku Asante.
It's been a really mournful morning in Parliament today. In fact, all this morning, members of Parliament have been talking about death of former colleagues who have passed on. It was first a statement about Honorable Lepalimo and then a statement about the Honorable Mustafa Ahmed. But just about 10 minutes ago, the Speaker of Parliament received some disturbing news in his ears. He slammed back into his chair and eventually had to suspend sitting for 10 minutes. It's past 10 minutes, the Speaker of Parliament has still not returned, and the information we are picking is that Deputy Finance Minister, Honorable John Kumah, the Member of Parliament for Ejisu constituency in the Ashanti region, has passed on. The Honorable Member of Parliament had not been well for some time now. We understand he had traveled outside the country for medical care. He had actually returned, and in fact on Tuesday he was within the precincts of Parliament. We know he had not been so well, but he was hoping that he was recovering from whatever exactly that was happening to him. And because of that, he had been coming to Parliament every now and then. He was seated right here. But the information we are picking now is that the Honourable Member of Parliament has passed on, and that is the information. It is yet to be confirmed officially on the floor. But the Speaker of Parliament, when he received that disturbing news, was clearly disturbed. From his countenance, he slammed into his chair and did not say any word for some seconds before he listened to leadership, who had also this news filtering in and had to suspend sitting. So, Aisha, the breaking news coming in, unfortunate as it is, the Member of Parliament for Ejisu constituency in the Ashanti region, a Deputy Minister for Finance, Honorable John Kumah, has passed on. The Speaker of Parliament is being announced as returning into the House now, and we have not been told exactly what might have been the cause. And the Speaker of Parliament is in. We don't know if by coming in now he will officially inform members that this is the news that has been communicated to him, or he may take some time. But that is the news we are getting in, filtering in now, that the Member of Parliament for Ejisu and Deputy Finance Minister, Honorable John Kumah, has passed on.
That is Kweku Asante, our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, with that rather disturbing news. Of course, we've seen the Speaker return to Parliament seated in a seat. Let's go to Parliament, the Chamber of Parliament, and listen to the Speaker.
Members have indicated that there are some other engagements, and leadership is in agreement. So, Mr. Speaker, we will just deal with one item. It's just a question left to be put, and then we can pray for adjournment. Mr. Speaker, so if you may put a question on Order Paper Addendum Item 2. Is a motion.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. As has been discussed, judging from the mood of the House, it will be better we suspend the debate on the SONA. However, to close the day, we want to close in a good mood. So we just want you to go to the Order Paper Addendum and put the question for the adoption of the report, the composition of the committee to advise you on the board membership. And that's the Order Paper Addendum. So you just let us adopt it and adjourn.
Let's suspend. Honorable members, I'm being guided for us to handle the item on the Order Paper Addendum. That's the position of the House. And Order Paper Addendum Item 2. And that what is left is for the question to be put. So I put the question. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. The committee to advise the Speaker on on the appointment of other members of the Parliamentary Service Board are as itemized on the order paper. Honourable members, for good reason, the House will have to adjourn. And so I move straight away to adjourn the House until tomorrow at 10 in the forenoon. The House is adjourned.
Speaker of Parliament Albano Bagbin has just adjourned proceedings for today. The House was scheduled to conclude debates on the State of the Nation address, but because of the bad news that has just come in, he has decided that the House should stop doing any business for today, and he has just adjourned the House to tomorrow, 10 o'clock a.m. in the forenoon. That news came in rather shockingly to the Speaker, who slammed in his chair and proceeded immediately to suspend sittings for about 10 minutes. And then when he returned, has just announced a suspension of proceedings. The Deputy Finance Minister, Prof. Jane, had been on the floor and was really not in the good of mood. She was really disturbed. In fact, if you look at the NPP MPs and the mood in the caucus, you see a lot of them having coalesced around each other, trying to take in this very sad news that has just come in. The leadership are conferring to try and get an understanding of what may have happened. I see Habib Idrisu and a number of the caucus leadership who are all trying to talk to colleagues and get an understanding of what exactly may have happened and how bad an information this is now coming in. But the news, as we've broken to you right here on Joy News, is that the Deputy Finance Minister, John Kumah, has passed on, and we expect that officially the family would have to announce that to the Speaker of Parliament before the House can come in and announce that officially. And because of that, the Speaker did not announce the death on the floor, because officially he has not been informed of that. But unofficially, MPs are now aware that Deputy Finance Minister John Kumah has passed on, and because of that, sitting has had to come to an abrupt end because of the very bad news. This is the second Member of Parliament who has passed on in this 8th Parliament. The first was the Member of Parliament for the Kumah constituency, who has actually been buried, a by-election having taken place already, and a replacement having been brought into the House. Now, the Member of Parliament for Ejiso constituency, John Kumah, and now Deputy Finance Minister, has also passed on, and a by-election will be expected, obviously, but this is the time for Members of Parliament to look at the death and also make certain comments. We are also live on Joy 99.7 FM, where this breaking news is now coming in, that the Member of Parliament for Ejiso constituency in the Ashanti region, Honourable John Ampotua Kumah, he's the first Member of Parliament, the former CEO of the National Entrepreneurship Program, NEIP, has passed on, and that was confirmed to the Speaker of Parliament, who was presiding over the House. He slammed over in his chairs and decided that immediately he was going to suspend sittings for about 10 minutes. He did, in fact, suspend sitting for 10 minutes and then returned to adjourn the House. This is bad news that has come in, and Members of Parliament were clear that because of how bad the news was, they were not going to be able to continue sittings. In fact, as soon as the Speaker of Parliament came in, the leadership conferred and agreed that if you look at the mood of Members of Parliament, it is clear that the House would have to suspend for some time so that this news can be processed. And in fact, today, all Members of Parliament have been talking about before this death was formally announced to the Speaker, and some members have been deaf. They have been discussing the health of Members of Parliament, where they say work so hard but do not get enough time to be able to take care of their health. We know that Honourable John Kumah had been unwell for some time, had travelled outside of the country to get some medical attention, had returned just a few weeks back, had resumed official duties. He had been in Parliament, and that news is now coming in that the Member of Parliament for Ejiso Honorable John Kumah. He is also the Deputy Finance Minister, has passed on. Officially, the family is here to inform the Speaker of Parliament and members of this death so that members of Parliament will be officially informed about this tragic event that is said to have occurred this morning right here in Accra. So that is the sad news that we are breaking to you right here on Joy 99.7 FM and also on Joy News on TV, that Deputy Finance Minister, Honorable John Kumah, is also the Member of Parliament for Ejiso constituency in the Ashanti region, has passed on.
Well, that's Kwekwa Sante, who is our parliamentary affairs correspondent, and he's been breaking that news to us. As you saw, the Speaker of Parliament was speechless and he had to adjourn the House. You could see the faces of the members of Parliament. They were actually unhappy about what has happened. Definitely, they are awaiting official communication from the family. And of course, we'll be getting to know what really happened for this to occur. Kwekwa Sante is still in Parliament. He will be bringing us more in our subsequent bulletins. Head of Political Desk, Evans Mensah, will be joining me in a jiffy. Of course, who is John Kumah? We know him as MP for Ejiso. We know him as the Deputy Minister for Finance. He's been there with Abna Asari. But of course, we know he's a lawyer. Prior to those positions, he's been a very active member of the NPP, head of the political desk here at Joy News has joined me, Evans Mensah. I'm sure you're surprised with this news.
I mean, surprise is a significant understatement. This is a major shock. I mean, considering everything else that we know as far as John Kumah is concerned, this is not something that anybody anticipated. And today, the major news is about running mates. And in the last few months, he's been tipped to be one of those individuals that the Vice President was considering. And if you check the many social media accounts and the front pages, even in the Ashanti region where he hails from, there have been campaigns for him to be considered. So this is one that many would not. It's not something that we've been privy to in terms of whether he was ill for a while, but this must have been pretty sudden, and the sudden turn of events over the last few hours. Indeed, it's shocking, and Parliament itself, as you see the pictures there, has been left pretty shocked by what has been happening. And my colleague, a parliamentary correspondent, was just reporting. You saw the pictures of the speaker, and the first deputy speaker himself slumped in his chair, and you saw the unity that immediately began to exhibit itself. The NDC folks on the other side crossing over to commiserate with their MPP colleagues. So this is a major developing story, breaking a lot of hearts tonight. On the day when, the seizing also, when, the political seizing was up and running, he's been very instrumental at the finance ministry. He almost became the mouthpiece for the ministry in taking on some of the issues that had come up. He was constantly with me on the show in the last year and over. I remember one of my most famous encounters with him at the time where the government had taken the decision to begin a conversation around the domestic debt exchange and also going to the international market to try and negotiate terms. He was the first to tell us that we're possibly going to look at a haircut of some 30%. He was that frank and transparent about telling us what was happening. Many were actually unhappy with him. I recall that interview in Parliament that he disclosed that to us. But for him, it was important that if you're going to achieve anything in this very trying time for the economy, that you maintain a certain level of transparency. To learn today that he had passed is pretty shocking, and we're beginning to learn a bit more about what may have happened.
Well, it's actually shocking to hear this, because I remember the last time I met him, he was hale and hearty, not quite long ago. It's so shocking to hear this. Is there going to be a lacuna? I mean, with his absence, looking at the kind of environment we find ourselves, the era, we are in an election year, and looking at how instrumental he's been in the party, what does this mean to the party?
Yeah, I mean, it's I guess it's a bit too early now to even go that far. People are beginning to come to terms with this. I've been talking to the party executives. Some of them haven't had it yet. I mean, that's how tragic this is. This is how saddening this is. Calling people all over in the party, at the finance ministry. This is a very trying time for both government and the party. Also considering where we are, we have a new finance minister. He's been there for a while. I mean, Adam would need him in terms of his own contribution to maneuvering these very choppy waters. He isn't there anymore. A lot of people in the last few minutes, as this has begun to surface on social media, now we're beginning to confirm, and we had to wait for Parliament itself to be told before we went ahead, haven't come to terms at all with this. Implications of this completely unknown, and this is a young man, by the way, we are talking about. It's a big young man who had done a lot for the party, both in the Ashanti region, both in terms of heading an important state institution and then getting that transition to become the deputy finance minister. At the time that he was appointed, many were surprised that he got the nod, but he's shown in his public engagement that he really had the fortitude to take on some of the very, very major issues. And at the time where arguably you can say that the finance minister needed him the most, with the sort of significant changes that has happened there recently, is when then the news emerges that he's passed. Pretty tragic indeed. There's very, very little we know tonight about what may have caused this and triggered this passing. And I'm pretty sure we can get a bit more from my colleague in Parliament, Kwekwa Asante, who is all over this for us today.
Yeah, Kwekwa Asante, what more have you gathered in Parliament?
So we have not been officially informed yet still. We understand that the majority leadership are going to be in a meeting right now. I've just seen a number of them just get out of the chamber to try and go to the offices to have a conversation about what might have happened. The Speaker of Parliament himself, Alban Bagbin, is still in his lobby. He has not gotten out, and we have not gotten any new information in terms of what exactly might have happened. But of course, we've known for some few months now that the Honorable John Kumah had not been well. In fact, right from the time the budget was presented last year, he was actually not around. When the debate was at the heat of its intensity in Parliament, he was still not around. And so we had not been given some clarity in terms of what exactly was happening. But the mood in Parliament is that of shock, major shock. In fact, the countenance of the Speaker when he was informed about this, the majority leadership just whispered some information to his assistant, who went right to the dais, spoke to the Speaker of Parliament, muttered some words into his ears, and he just slumped into his chair, and he was speechless for some time before he then decided to suspend sitting. We understand he got some more briefing from leadership of the House in terms of what exactly may have happened, and he came back, and the mood in the House was clear that they could not proceed to do business, and they had to adjourn for the day. And it was so clear. In fact, we had to do one more item, and I heard one minority backbencher shouting that no, this is not the time to do all that. Of course, they did take away that committee's report, and then they had to adjourn sitting for today. They expected to come tomorrow 10 a.m. But as of Ashanti culture, the Speaker of Parliament and the leadership of the House would have to be formally informed about this. Then they can officially inform members of Parliament about this. But the news has broken and has filtered right into Parliament. Abdul Ansari, the deputy finance minister, was in the chamber at the time, and she could not control herself. In fact, some members of Parliament had to go around her and try and shield her away from the cameras, because she was clearly not excited about the news, and she was teary. She was crying literally on the floor of the House. Members of Parliament had to shield her from the cameras that were trying to capture the scenes from the Chamber of Parliament and what exactly might have happened. Today, the debate on the State of the Nation address was set to conclude, but MPs have had to stop all that because of the very sad and unfortunate news that has come in now. And we are breaking that to you right here on Joy News and Joy 99.7 FM, that the Deputy Finance Minister, Honorable John Ampotia Kumah, he's also the Member of Parliament for Ejiso, has passed on today, and that information has been filtering in. We expect that the leadership are going to confer and find some idea in terms of what exactly they're going to do in the interim, especially because of this passing. It was only last week also that the Speaker of Parliament had to inform the House that the President had elevated Abinos Yasare, who was Deputy Finance Minister, to the Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, and then appointed one Mr. Mpabin, Dr. Mpabin, I should say, to become a Deputy Finance Minister to join John Kumah in that ranks, and that news has just come in today. The controversy, or I should say the coincidence, I should say rather, this morning has been that in Parliament, since MP started sitting around 10:30 a.m., all they've been talking about are deaths of members of Parliament, former members of Parliament, how MPs need to take care of themselves, how the state need to also come in and help members of Parliament when they are sick, when they are not well, how they need to take care of themselves. In fact, the Speaker of Parliament having talked about in terms of how, in his opinion, members of Parliament have to take some real care of themselves in terms of the healthcare attitude. So that is the entry to where the Speaker of Parliament may be getting out, and we expect that very soon he will walk out. But that is the sad and unfortunate news that have been coming in, that a Deputy Finance Minister, Honorable John Kumah, like I've also said, he's Member of Parliament for Ejiso, a one-term Member of Parliament under the first term of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. He was the Chief Executive Officer of NEIP, and he has been serving quite creditably well in terms of his availability to talk to members about what happens and all that. And so the Deputy Speaker is now walking out of the House about the specific, Mr. Speaker, those are the Deputy Speakers who are all now coming out from what we expect have been a meeting with the Speaker of Parliament about the exact situation, as we've now come to know the unfortunate breaking news that the Member of Parliament for Ejiso, John Kumah, has passed on. It has forced a truncation of proceedings in Parliament today. There was a lot of business for MPs to do today, and including the conclusion of the debate on the President's message on the state of the nation. That debate was set to be concluded today, but that is not now to be because of this very bad news that have now come in. It's been filtering through. In fact, for about 15 minutes before the Speaker of Parliament got that, members in the press gallery were getting that information, and you could see members of Parliament go tete-a-tete, try and speak to each other to try and get an understanding of what exactly was happening. And then the leadership whispered some words to the aide to the Speaker of Parliament, who had to inform the Speaker he had to suspend sitting immediately so that he could get some understanding of what exactly was happening. He then went in for about 15 minutes. Leadership were in conclave, having a conversation about this very sad news, and then eventually having to adjourn sitting for today.
With that update from Parliament, and you saw those deputy speakers who definitely walked out in a somber mood. We're still yet to see the Speaker walk out of the chamber. I'm still here with Evans Mensah. Evans Mensah, we know him as the MP for Ejiso. As Kweku Asante put it, he served one term under Akufo-Addo's term. We know he's a Deputy Finance Minister. What else do we know about John Kumah?
I mean, it was just last week in the heat of the LGBTQ debate that the opposition party began mentioning his name as part of the political banter, that he's married to an apostle, like Mrs. Lillian Kumah. Yep. And as we know tonight, with this very tragic news that has been reported, he leaves behind a wife, the apostle, Mrs. Lillian Kumah, and 6 children. That is as tragic as it gets. Tonight, a young man, 45 years, in the prime of his career, doing great work. And if you look at his trajectory of his political rise, he's been involved with the MPP since 1992. It's a typical story of people who pay their dues to the party, but to also this country. If you go into his constituency, they simply call him the lawyer, and they call him lawyer. I mean, because of he's very affable. If you've met him before, he's one of the most affable characters you can ever meet, in spite of his achievements as a young politician. In his constituency, people regard him as a man of integrity. And if you look back to the last primary that was held, the significant number of votes that he secured there, and many were watching, people like us, political watchers, were watching his constituency because it was in Ashanti region, but plus also because his name had come up as possible running mates, and he swept the floor with his opponents in that particular part of the country. Now, we know his work when it comes to job creation. when he was at the National Youth Employment Agency. And before entering politics, though, he had been a very astute entrepreneur, creating and forming businesses, but also employing people. And people forget, but he formed this company called Majak Associates Limited, a construction firm involving projects across the country. Right, this is somebody who clearly knew what he was about. Then he became a lawyer, became a managing partner in his own firm, and then, of course, was appointed the chief executive officer of the National Entrepreneurial and Innovation Program in 2017, just shortly after the president was elected and sworn in. He's credited for supervising this creation of the 45,000 startups for businesses across the country, but also young men and women across the country in that particular sector when he was a chief executive. Combined, you're talking about 17 years dedication. I mean, real at the level of notice, but he's been involved at the grassroots for quite a while, paying his dues to the party until, of course, he then became elevated and began hearing John Kumah. I mean, a very astute orator, indeed, when he's a strong debater, both on the floor and on issues surrounding the finance ministry when he was there. He was actually awarded the title of the most efficient prominent government appointee in 2018 because of the exploits that he was doing at that level, creating all the jobs. And so tonight, many in his constituency in particular will be left absolutely devastated as we begin to learn of this very tragic news that has forced Parliament to adjourn abruptly today. The party itself will be left to pick up the pieces of this.
It's indeed very sad news that we're hearing this afternoon, and definitely just as the speaker, you see him there. There's no official communication. It's something that Parliament will be waiting. All of us, even the media, will be waiting for from the family. But of course, it's really sad hearing of the demise of John Kumah. Thank you so much, Professor Kobi-Mensah and Dr. Asah-Asante, for your patience. Of course, being a political analyst, definitely you must have crossed his path once or twice in your whole time. Let me pick your thoughts on what has happened. This must come as a blow. Let me start with you, Professor Kobi-Mensah.
Well, thank you, Aisha. I think that the shock and the surprise is not only you guys. I mean, I was absolutely shocked when you broke the news. I would say that in the condolences to the family, to people related to him, but of course to the broader political fraternity, the NPP and the other colleagues that he shares Parliament with. I think that it is very important that all of us, we take good care of our health. It has become a major issue in terms of not only young people, but the entire population. This is really shocking. I mean, he's one of the most, you would say, vibrant, lively young politicians. And so if we're talking about a generation leadership, clearly he's part of that generation leadership that should the top generation leave, these are the guys going to take the helm. Unfortunately, to pass on like this, it's very, very unfortunate. It's very, very heartbreaking. So, I mean, I can only say my condolences to the family, but this is hard to take.
Dr. Asah-Asante, in our analysis of who becomes running mate for the NPP flag bearer, I'm sure you've heard of his name also popping up at one time. This must be shocking to you.
Very, very shocking. And sharing the pain of the family, because I know what they are going through now when you lose somebody that you have developed to this level. It's not good news at all. Very painful, but we rest in the hope that the family will be strong, and then we all will follow them and support them in this trying moment. It's sad. It's sad. It's sad. So, condolences to the family and all those who are linked to him one way or the other, of course, the whole country as large.
This is something that we'll be bringing updates to you, our viewers, in our subsequent bulletins as we pick bits and pieces of information of what led to his demise and what happens next for the NPP, for the family, for Parliament and politicians. We'll be bringing you definitely. Joy News is where to stay. Let's continue our conversation with you, Professor Kobe Mensah. What are your expectations? I don't even know if that will happen. If that will happen, as we're hearing of this news, I don't know if the flag bearer will go ahead to nominate his running mate or make that announcement. But what has been your expectations up until today?
Well, as my colleague, as I was actually, I don't see any change in the flag bearer of the NDC's position with regards to the nomination and perhaps endorsement of the professor on two grounds, as I had actually highlighted earlier, that on a principal position, you had actually argued to be maintained. In practice, the conditions based on which she was selected also prevailed. Now, people make an argument about what he brought to the table. I'm sorry, unfortunately, the EC doesn't actually have any mechanism where we can actually calculate what voters share a particular political element actually brings onto the final electoral outcome. So we can only say that the outcome of the election in terms of percentage of vote is a collective contribution of all the political elements. Of course, there are cues that we can take to measure a certain candidate's impact on a campaign. And sometimes people forget that a campaign is not only about your final result as to how many votes you got, but there are some prerequisites that the campaign must actually demonstrate before the final results. You run a campaign to obviously, change the narrative or to position a certain narrative in the minds of the people. So in political communication, we would say you frame the stories, you frame the policies, all right? Now, if you pick a certain candidate, the framing could have a different direction. If you pick a certain candidate, the framing could have a different direction. Don't forget, the 2016 NDC campaign had suffered quite a lot of negative attacks. Chief of them was, corruption. The vice president had articulated a number of times about value for money issues that actually dogged the 2016 campaign. Now in 2020, you find that the NPP was struggling to sort of attack, the NDC campaign. And I can actually certainly attribute that to the candidacy of Professor Nana-Jane. What I'm saying is, when you take certain candidate, which I think Asa has actually intimated earlier, it becomes hard to attack the campaign. Now, vis-a-vis when you take somebody else, it's easy to open up the campaign for an attack. And I am sure that we're in this country when we heard, those days, the MPP struggling to even find a certain attack on that particular, candidate, which is Professor.
So for you, and of course we're running out of time, but your expectation is for the flag bearer to maintain his running mate for the 2020 elections, which makes a better case for the NDC. Yeah, okay. So we'll be looking forward to what happens this afternoon as former President Mahama announces his running mate. That is your election brief. There's more of the news and also updates of John Kumah's death on the Pulse, which comes up in a minute with Elton Brobe. Do enjoy the rest of our programs.